In a first since the peace deal signing, the United States Army carried out strikes against the Taliban in Afghanistan's Helmand province. The defensive attack by the United States came as Taliban killed 20 Afghan defense personnel. 3 Taliban fighters were also killed. However, it is not clear yet if the casualties were in the US attack or in a separate operation carried out by the Afghan forces. Interestingly, the escalation came shortly after Trump became the first US president to talk directly to the Taliban since Washington's intervention in Afghanistan since 2001. In fact, after the call, Donald Trump said that Taliban had agreed to cease violence.
I spoke to the leader of the Taliban today. We had a good conversation. We've agreed there's no violence. We don't want violence. We'll see what happens. They're dealing with Afghanistan, but we'll see what happens.
Meanwhile, the Taliban has released the transcript of the 35-minute phone call between its Doha-based political head, Mullah Abdul Baradar, and United States President Donald Trump. Interestingly, as per the transcript, the US president referred to the Taliban as tough. During the call, Taliban said, and I quote, "The Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan or Taliban is a strong political and military force that aims to maintain positive bilateral relations with the United States and other world countries. Establishing a government of our own choosing in our homeland is the legitimate right of Afghans," end quote. Meanwhile, Donald Trump said, and I quote, "You are tough people and have a great country, and I understand that you are fighting for your homeland. We have been there for 19 years, and withdrawal of foreign forces from Afghanistan now is in the interest of everyone," end quote. The Trump-Taliban phone call comes in the backdrop of a disagreement on prisoner swap between the Afghanistan government and the Taliban, after the Afghanistan government said that it made no commitment to free 5,000 Taliban prisoners. Taliban, meanwhile, has refused to hold talks with Kabul unless it releases the group's 5,000 prisoners. Remember, the Afghan government was not part of the deal, but the two signatories agreed to hold separate talks with Kabul. As per the US-Taliban deal, the group has agreed to help Washington in the fight against ISIS and Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan in exchange of US troops' withdrawal from the conflict-hit nation. The development comes at a time of political turmoil in Kabul. This as President Ashraf Ghani's rival Abdullah Abdullah has contested the September 2019 poll results, in which former was declared the winner. We are now joined by our Afghanistan correspondent Mustafa Kazmi. Mustafa, it was bound to happen, but it took only a few days. The United States has attacked Taliban fighters who were in turn attacking Afghan forces. And so how long is this peace expected to last in Afghanistan?
Well, this is very disheartening for the Afghan people. As you said in the bulletin, it was only just a matter of a few days after the peace agreement was signed between the Taliban and the United States. But right 3 days after that, the Taliban released a press statement saying that they have directed all of their fighters to not attack any American soldiers or facilities. And in lieu of that, they will continue their attacks just like before against the Afghan forces. And we have been seeing several news reports since yesterday that in the past 24 to 48 hours, nearly 20 Afghan security forces were killed in various attacks by the Taliban, and the Afghan government has openly said that it was the Taliban, not any other group, that conducted these attacks against them. Along with these attacks and during the 48 to 24 hours of the violence that the Taliban has restarted, as they have named it, restarting of the violence and attacks against the Afghan government. More than 4 civilians have been killed also, and over 18 of them have been reported to have been wounded. This is just over amazing for the Afghan people as well as the politics people, because it was supposed to be a matter of peace and comfort and a time of end to the violence after the peace agreement was signed between the United States and the Taliban. But on the other hand, politicians and those who are just busy analyzing this peace agreement and the consequences of it that will come, and some of them have been seen by world people, is that they did not make any commitment to stop violence against the Afghan government. And now, in between the violence and the war between the Taliban and the Afghan government, just like before, it is the civilian Afghans that are being slaughtered, as they have named it.
Mustafa, I'd like to thank you for joining us, giving us your insights on the Afghanistan peace process and its fallout. One certainly hopes that the civilians are safe. Meanwhile, the Taliban has announced that they will not be attacking any foreign troops in Afghanistan, but one is still waiting for the end of bloodshed in that country.